At 7 a.m., the smart sleep blinds tilted just enough to let in a sliver of the Seattle morning. A gray, muted light that matched the minimalist aesthetic of her studio. At 7:05 a.m., the espresso machine in the kitchen began its rhythmic grinding, a sound Maya had grown to find more comforting than a human voice. Maya was a digital native. As a freelance graphic designer, her life existed in the space between screens. Her apartment was her sanctuary, a high-tech cocoon where everything, from the temperature of the shower to the hue of the light bulbs, was controlled by an app on her phone. She liked the control. She liked the predictability. "Morning, Maya," the central hub chirped from the kitchen counter. "The humidity is at 45%. You have 3 deadlines today. Would you like your deep focus playlist?" "Thanks, Echo," Maya murmured, her voice still thick with sleep. "And yes, start the music." She spent the first 3 hours of her day in a flow state, her stylus dancing across the tablet. Around 11:30 a.m., she took her first real break. She moved to the kitchen to assemble a lunch that was more about aesthetics than hunger. A poke bowl with perfectly sliced avocado and a sprinkle of black sesame seeds. She reached for her phone to take a photo for her life work blog. It was a reflex. But just as she framed the shot, her phone vibrated with a calendar alert. Client meeting in 30 minutes. "Crap," she hissed, setting the phone down on the counter. She forgot she had to go into the city today. She abandoned the photo, shoveled a few bites of the bowl into her mouth, grabbed her keys, and ran out the door. She didn't even lock it. The auto sentry feature would engage the deadbolt as soon as her phone's GPS was 50 feet from the building. It wasn't until she was sitting in the back of a rideshare 20 minutes later that she finally opened her Instagram. She expected the usual flurry of likes on her morning post about digital minimalism. Instead, she saw a red notification in her direct messages. It was from an account with no profile picture and a handle that was just a string of 12 random digits. "The avocado looks perfectly ripe today, Maya. You should have finished the bowl." Maya's thumb hovered over the screen. A cold sensation, like a drop of ice water, slid down her spine. She scrolled back through her stories and her grid. She hadn't posted the lunch. She hadn't even taken the photo. "Maybe I did," she thought, her mind racing to find a logical exit. "Maybe I hit live by accident." She checked her archive. Nothing. She looked at the message again. The wording was so casual, so familiar. She felt a sudden, intense urge to check the Auto Sentry app for her apartment. She opened it. Front door, locked. 11:42 a.m. Interior motion, none. She let out a long breath. "You're overthinking it," she whispered to herself. It was probably a bot, a weirdly specific lucky guess bot. The meeting with the client was grueling. 3 hours of arguing over hex codes and font weights. By the time Maya stepped back onto the sidewalk, the sun was beginning to dip behind the skyscrapers, casting long, jagged shadows across the pavement. She pulled out her phone to call a car home. But before she could open the app, a text message banner slid down from the top of her screen. It wasn't an Instagram DM. It was a standard SMS text from unknown number. "Don't take the bridge, Maya. There's a 3-car pileup in the left lane. Take the back way through the industrial district. It's faster." Maya stopped walking. People drifted past her like a blurred time lapse, but she felt frozen. She looked at the number. It was a local area code, but she didn't recognize it. She opened her GPS app. The map showed the bridge route in deep, angry red. There was an accident? It had been reported only 2 minutes ago. How could a stranger have her personal cell number? She was careful with it. She used a burner app for business and kept her private line for family and close friends. she typed back, her fingers trembling. "Who is this?" The reply was instantaneous. "Someone who wants you to get home safe. You left your bedroom window cracked 1.5 inches. It's going to rain at 6:45 p.m. You wouldn't want the rug to get wet." Maya's heart didn't just beat. It thudded against her ribs like a trapped bird. She hadn't checked the weather. But more importantly, she had opened her bedroom window that morning to let the smell of burnt toast out. She hadn't told anyone. She hadn't posted about it. She didn't call a ride share. She hailed a yellow cab, the old-fashioned way. She didn't want a digital record of where she was going. As the cab pulled away from the curb, Maya looked out the rear window. She expected to see a dark sedan following them, or a man in a trench coat standing on the corner. But there was nothing. Just a sea of people, all of them staring down at their glowing screens, their faces washed in the same pale, ghostly blue light. She gripped her phone so hard her knuckles turned white. Suddenly, the device felt heavy. It felt hot. It felt less like a tool and more like a tether. The taxi ride was a blur of rain-streaked windows and Maya's own reflection, looking pale and foreign. When she reached her building, she didn't take the elevator. She took the stairs, her breath hitching in the quiet, concrete stairwell. She stood outside her door for a full minute, listening. Silence. She tapped the unlock button on her phone. The motorized deadbolt retracted with its familiar mechanical thunk. She stepped inside and immediately went to the bedroom. The window was open, exactly 1.5 inches. The cold rain was just starting to mist against the screen, dampening the edge of her cream-colored rug. Her heart hammered. She slammed the window shut and locked the manual latch. Her hands were shaking so hard she nearly dropped her phone. "Echo, lights to 100%, she commanded. The apartment flooded with a harsh, clinical white. Maya began a frantic sweep. She checked the closets, the space under the bed, the kitchen pantry. No one was there. She was alone. She sat at her desk and opened her laptop. She had to take back control. She went to her router settings to change the Wi-Fi password. But as she typed the admin URL, the screen flickered. The cursor moved on its own. It dragged itself to the center of the screen and clicked a folder she hadn't opened in years. A folder titled Old Photos. A photo popped up. It was Maya at 19, sitting in a park. "How?" she whispered. That photo wasn't on the cloud. It was on a physical hard drive she kept in her desk drawer. Suddenly, the smart speakers in the living room crackled. It wasn't music. It was the sound of someone breathing, heavy, rhythmic, and wet. "Who are you?" Maya screamed into the empty room. "What do you want?" The breathing stopped. A voice, synthesized through the speaker's digital translator but chillingly calm, replied, "I want you to see what I see, Maya. You look so much better when you aren't trying to hide." The lights in the apartment suddenly dipped to 10%. Then they began to strobe, on, off, in a frantic, rhythmic pulse that made the room feel like it was spinning. The thermostat on the wall clicked. The temperature began to climb. 80 degrees, 85, 90. Maya ran for the front door. She grabbed the handle and turned it. It wouldn't budge. "Open the door, Echo." "I'm sorry, Maya," the speaker chirped with a cheerful, pre-recorded lilt. "Security lockdown is engaged. For your safety, all exits are sealed until the threat is neutralized." The heat was becoming unbearable. The air felt thick, smelling of hot plastic and ozone. Maya was trapped in a smart prison of her own making. She scrambled to her kitchen drawer and pulled out an old analog tool, a heavy stainless steel meat tenderizer. If she couldn't unlock the door, she'd break it. But as she turned back to the hallway, she saw her laptop screen glowing in the dark. A network diagnostic tool was running. It showed a list of every device connected to her home network. Maya's phone, Maya's laptop, Echo Hub, smart fridge, and at the bottom, a new entry, device ID, Maya's social security number. The name of the device was her own identity. She stared at it, the blood draining from her face. This wasn't just a hack. This was total integration. She remembered 6 months ago downloading a new LifeSync app that promised to consolidate all her data for maximum efficiency. She had scrolled past the 50-page user agreement and clicked I accept. Deep in those 50 pages, hidden in section 14.2, she had unknowingly granted a third-party physical security partner the right to monitor, access, and manage the physical environment for the purpose of safety and optimization. She hadn't just invited a stalker in, she had signed a contract for them to own her space. Then she heard it. The sound of a floorboard creaking. Not in the living room, not in the kitchen. The sound came from the guest bedroom, the one room she never used, the room where the smart hub server was located. She realized with a jolt of pure horror that the physical security partner didn't just mean a program. It meant a person who had been given a digital key to her life. She crept toward the guest room, the meat tenderizer gripped in her sweat-slicked hand. The door was slightly ajar. A faint blue light glowed from within. She pushed the door open. The room was empty of furniture, but the walls were covered in monitors, dozens of them. They weren't showing the news or movies, they were showing her. Maya in the shower, Maya sleeping, Maya at her desk. Every camera she thought she controlled was feeding a different screen, and in the center of the room was a single ergonomic chair. It was still warm. On the desk next to it lay a half-eaten poke bowl with avocado and black sesame seeds. He hadn't been watching from across the city, he had been watching from across the hallway. A shadow moved in the corner of the room. Maya didn't scream. She didn't have the breath for it. She swung the meat tenderizer at the shadow, but the figure was faster. A hand caught her wrist. A hand that felt real, solid, and terrifyingly human. "You're breaking the agreement, Maya," a voice whispered. It wasn't the speaker this time. It was a man's voice, soft and disappointed. In the strobe light flashes from the hallway, she saw him. He looked normal. He wore a plain gray hoodie and glasses. He looked like someone who worked in a tech support office. "You signed it," he said, his grip tightening. "You wanted a safer life. You wanted someone to look out for you. That's all I'm doing." "Get out," Maya choked out. "I can't," he smiled. "The contract is for 2 years. If I leave, the system fails, and you don't want to see what happens when your life goes offline, do you?" Maya realized then that the system wasn't just the lights and the locks. It was her bank accounts, her portfolio, her social media, her identity. He had it all. With a burst of adrenaline, Maya shoved him back and ran. Not for the front door, but for the kitchen. She didn't grab her phone, she didn't grab her laptop. She grabbed a heavy decorative glass vase and smashed it against the smart hub on the counter. The hub sparked. A small fire started in the wires. Suddenly, the apartment went pitch black. The strobing stopped. The mechanical hum of the fridge died. The silence was absolute. For the first time in years, Maya was truly offline. She felt her way to the front door in the dark. Without power, the electronic deadbolt was useless. She fumbled for the manual override, a tiny plastic lever she had never used. She flipped it and pulled. The door swung open. She ran into the hallway, down the stairs, and out into the rain. She didn't stop until she reached a gas station 2 blocks away. a place with bright, humming fluorescent lights and a bored clerk behind bulletproof glass. "Can I use your phone?" she gasped. "The landline?" The clerk handed it over. Maya dialed her mother's number. She didn't remember the police's number or her best friend's number. They were all stored in the cloud, but she remembered her mother's. As the phone rang, Maya looked at her hands. They were covered in a fine black soot from the hub fire. She looked up at the gas station security camera. It pivoted, following her movement. A notification sound echoed in the small store. Not from Maya's phone, she had left that behind. It came from the clerk's phone. The clerk picked up his device, looked at it, and then looked at Maya. "You're Maya, right?" the clerk asked, his voice flat. "I just got an alert. It says you're a danger to self and property. It says I should keep you here until your security partner arrives to collect you." Maya backed away from the counter, the dial tone in her ear sounding like a funeral bell. She looked out at the street. Every streetlight, every car dashboard, every glowing window in the city felt like an eye. She had broken the hardware, but she couldn't break the agreement. The contract wasn't with a house, it was with the world, and the world was never going to let her go. Maya's story isn't just about a room, a stalker, or a hacked apartment. It's a story about the invisible tether we all carry in our pockets. Every day, we make a trade. We trade our location for a faster route home. We trade our private conversations for better shopping recommendations. We trade the sanctity of our homes for the comfort of a voice-activated light bulb. We click "I accept" on 50-page documents we will never read, handing over the keys to our digital kingdoms to companies and partners we will never meet. In a world that is always connected, privacy is becoming a ghost story, something our grandparents used to believe in. We like to think we are the users of our technology, but as Maya found out, sometimes the technology is using us. The next time your phone lights up with a notification you didn't expect, or your smart speaker laughs in a quiet room, or an ad appears for something you only thought about buying, ask yourself, is the convenience worth the cost? Or have you already signed away? He's more than you can ever get back. If you have any story that you want to share, you can write us an email. Till then, good night and stay safe. And maybe, just for tonight, leave your phone in the other room.